Welcome to the People's Podcast, an employer's resource by Group Management Services. I'm your host, Alyse Kimble.
This podcast does not constitute legal or financial advice. Its accuracy, completeness, or adequacy is not guaranteed. Use the information at your own risk. Consult an attorney or financial advisor before taking any action.
Welcome to the People's Podcast, where we help small business owners build workplaces that attract and retain top talent. Today, we're talking all things young professionals and what they really want out of a role, so our small, medium-sized business owners can deliver. Joining us is Ashley Basile Oeken, president of Engage Cleveland, a community engagement org focused on young professionals and business community, leaders who are passionate about making Cleveland a top destination for the next generation. Ashley, before we dig in, tell us a little bit about your background and what excites you about working with emerging professionals.
Great. Thank you for having me. So my background, I've always been in the nonprofit sector. I started in economic development, working with small business development centers at the Ohio Small Business Development Centers, focused on Ashtabula, Mahoning, and Trumbull counties. Did that all through working on my master's degree, and then moved on to working at the Fund for Our Economic Future, which is a hybrid nonprofit / grant maker organization that pools funds and resources together on behalf of some of the large corporations and philanthropic organizations in the greater Cleveland area to make grants to some large economic development intermediaries. From there, I have been at Engage Cleveland for the past 13 years, working to attract, engage, and retain early to mid-career talent to the greater Cleveland area.
Love that. And it's great work that you're doing because Cleveland's such a great area.
It is. It's a lovely place to be.
I feel like people move here and they don't realize how wonderful it is.
Agreed. We have a lot of the amenities that you would find in larger cities, and you can actually afford to do them here.
Right. Cost of living is so great. Love it. What is, in your opinion, the biggest misconception that employers have about maybe Gen Z millennial workers?
So I think that it's just differences across generations. So there are multiple generations in the workplace now, and I think people just like to do things differently. So whether that is getting constructive criticism, whether that is communication styles, it's just that it's different. It's not necessarily good, bad. It's just different.
Yeah. I was reading something the other day that said that this is a very rare time in the world just because there really are 4 generations working right now.
Yeah, that is correct. And again, they're different. And so in the generations, the 2 oldest have birthed the 2 youngest.
Yeah.
So that's also an interesting dynamic when you're kind of looking at people who are your boss and they're your parents' age.
Oh, for sure. That would be hard, I think, for a lot of people. If you could give maybe small business owners here in Cleveland one piece of advice when it comes to attracting young talent or the next generation of talent, what would that be?
Just to be open-minded. Again, if they don't do something the way that you do it, they still, have work ethic. They still have priorities. Just, it's a very different culture. It's a very different world that they were brought into, that they were raised in. So things are different, right? We have AI, we have computers. Those are things that they were birthed into, things that are at their fingertips. So again, while it's not the same, it's just different. Yeah. So just learning to kind of be open-minded to learning things differently.
Love it. Do you feel like there are any tools that would help maybe the small, medium-sized businesses to give maybe older workers to help them interact better or communicate better with these younger ones?
Yeah. So, as far as tools, it's interesting. I think things like, Teams, Zoom, things like that, there's a lot of things built into those, I think, that work really well. So some people, boomers prefer face-to-face interaction. Gen Z wants everything texted.
Yeah.
I think, using Teams to chat or using Slack to communicate, finding that happy medium that works for your culture, I think is the most important. So each company has to really look at the culture that they want and what works best across their workforce and their industry, quite honestly. So if you are a manufacturing company and not everybody has a computer, well, then it probably doesn't work to say, well, Slack me or send me a Teams chat, right? Well, if I'm if I'm on the floor and I don't have a computer, well, that doesn't work. You're going to have to come and talk to me, right? We're going to have a conversation. But it's really important to kind of figure out what works best for your industry, your culture, your company.
Love that. And I think too, like just kind of having an open discussion dialogue of like, hey, like what would work best for everybody, or how can we work together collaboratively to make sure communication breakdown doesn't happen.
Agreed. Yeah.
Within the org. So when young professionals evaluate job opportunities, what are they really looking for and why?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. So the younger generations, again, very different from some of the older generations. So older generations, somebody offered you a job, you took it. You went to that job and you just started working. Younger generations really want to make sure that positions have a lot of purpose, impact. They want to see the results of the work, right? So that is really, really important. Flexibility is also key. So younger generations, Gen Z in particular, they started their careers in hybrid workforce, right? They graduated, they were getting positions, they know they can work from home, they know they can work remotely. Those things still matter to them. They like that flexibility, they like knowing, that they have some options there. So that is still really important. Growth opportunities are really important. So knowing that a company is going to invest in them, show them opportunities for growth, whether that be a mentor inside the company, outside of the company, professional development opportunities, things of that nature, that all really matters. And seeing that career path, that career trajectory is important as well. And then sometimes I think this gets a bad rap or maybe has a stigma around it, but work-life balance does matter for this younger generation. We do a lot of research at Engage Cleveland, and compensation still really matters to people. They want to be able to make enough money to enjoy their life, but work-life balance is normally number one or number two, regardless if you're female or male. And contradictory to what people think, it actually matters across all generations. But millennials and Gen Z were the first generations to really wave that flag really hard. The older generations are taking care of aging parents, so they want that work-life balance to be able to do that. The younger generations want it to take care of their young children, to be able to, go to a soccer game or go to a play at school or whatever it might be, or just to have a mental health day and be able to have that opportunity to just check out and kind of get their mental wealth back into place.
I think that's good too. Prioritizing yourself is important, right?
It is.
If you're not good here, it's hard for you to take care of others.
Yeah, you can't bring your whole self to work and give it 100%.
Absolutely. And we touched on this a little bit, but beyond like career success, which I think it looks differently now. I read a study the other day on Forbes, I think it was, that the younger generation, they're not raising their hand to manager positions or leadership positions as much as the older generation did. And I think there's a lot of things that go into that, but I want to hear your opinion beyond like money incentive, because sometimes that doesn't incentivize the younger generation to step into leadership positions. What would make them want to?
Where there's responsibility, there is risk involved, and I think there is a lot that comes when taking on a managerial position, right? So oftentimes they're managing peers, which can be challenging, and oftentimes companies aren't providing those opportunities to grow within the organization, and then they're not also training them outside of the organization.
Yeah.
A lot of the training that we do at Engage Cleveland is preparing people for those roles. So one of the things that we created is a mid-career professional development series, because we noticed that that's a gap in the market. So there is a lot of training and development, through college. People are coddled, right? Like you're hand spoon fed everything you need to do on a college campus. You graduate, there's, internship programs, rotational programs, managerial programs, very early on, right? Rotational, things of that nature. When it's time to be a manager, there aren't a lot of programs. There aren't a lot of things that really show you, hey, maybe you're, again, mid-career, 30s, 40s. It's time for you to lead. Well, how? Where? Who's going to show me how to do that? We found that to be a big gap when talking to all of our employer members that we work with. We work with about 120 different companies. And so we created a series, it's a 5-week program that we do every summer that really tries to help professionals in that regard. So I would say that companies need to do a better job of training and development. a lot of large companies have training and development departments that do that, but a lot of the small mid-market companies don't have that internally. And so if they're not outsourcing it, these professionals don't know where to go to get that training. So then you're like, hey, I want to give you this opportunity. And they're like, oh, no, I don't know. It's scary. It's intimidating because now I have to train the person who I just sat next to. They're my peer, they're my friend, and now you want me to be their boss. That's scary. That's intimidating. And for what? $5,000 more?
Right.
It's not worth the hassle. It's not worth the headaches. You're putting so much more on my plate. I don't know that it's worth it. So, I think if we want to have this next generation of leaders, we have to do a better job of helping them along.
I 1,000% agree. I think that is the biggest issue, I think, with middle management, is we're not offering the ability to actually get educated on how to be a leader, because it's more than just knowing how to do the job.
Right. There's gaps. I mean, some professional associations have things, different programs, trainings, webinars. But if you're not a part of a professional association, if your industry doesn't have one, it's hard to know where to go.
Absolutely. For maybe small businesses that might not know where to go and find these things in their community, that could be a good supplement if they don't have an internal training program for building a bench for leadership. Where could they go?
So Engage Cleveland, we have a lot of those programs. So we offer those. Some chambers of commerces offer those if you're a member of your chamber of commerce. And again, a lot of professional associations. So if you are, a part of those different associations, some of them are out there for accounting, legal, those types of groups have them as well. Those would probably be the first 3 that I would suggest. They normally have a good amount of those that are offered on, a fairly regular basis. The problem becomes that sometimes those are annual programs, right? Like our mid-career series happens every August. So if you miss it, you have to wait a whole year, right, to do it. And you may have somebody that you want to promote. So I always tell people invest in professional development, because it's something that you want to ensure that there's this little meme that's out, and it's floated around LinkedIn for years, and it's a CEO and a CFO, and the CEO is like, are we training our up and coming associates? And the CFO is like, no, we don't have the money to do that, and they're just going to leave. And the CEO is like, but what if they stay, right? And I think that's a really important analogy to kind of think through. At Engage Cleveland, we have a professional development opportunity about every other month. And so they vary on topic, but they all sort of do the same thing. And then we have webinars in between. We try to make sure that we're offering things often because we know that there's a need. It's important to do something. So the mid-career one only happens once a year, but we have another one called Lead CLE at more early career professionals. Some of that might be relative to mid-career as well, pending where you are. We have one just for women. We have one focused on general development, just looking for what fits you or what you're looking for and making those connections.
That's wonderful. And it's nice to have that right here at your fingertips.
Yeah. And again, a lot of the chambers, a lot of the professional associations, there's a lot of resources in our community.
Yeah, that's really, really great. If you had to rank salary, flexibility, or growth opportunities, which would win out?
So we actually do studies on this. So we have a study that we do called the State of the Young Professional Community. You referenced Forbes earlier. We look at a lot of data at Engage Cleveland because we try to make sure that Cleveland is one of the top cities for early to mid-career talent. When I first got into this role, the problem that I found was all of these studies that come out of Forbes, McKinsey, Deloitte, all these big names, they typically were looking at the coast. And Cleveland's very different, right? Yeah. We're a Midwestern city, we're smaller. And so we wanted to develop our own research to really understand what do people in the greater Cleveland area want? So our research has been done sort of on the Cleveland, the MSA is what they call it in sort of research speak, but the Cleveland-Akron kind of greater area. Okay. We like to say Cleveland and the sort of the counties that border because we know people will kind of come in and out of Cuyahoga County and the counties that border. They'll come in and out of Cuyahoga County. And consistently, we did this survey in 2018, 2019, 2021, 2023, and then we'll be doing it again. We have done it about every other year. compensation is always number one.
Wow.
So even though Cleveland has, low cost of living, people still talk about work-life balance, compensation has still rung true. It doesn't matter how you pull the data, if you look at gender, if you look at age, if you look at race, ethnicity, comp is still always number one. And if you start to read through the rationale and the reason why, and Kent State has been our research partner on this, so we don't do the research, we hire the professionals that know exactly how to look at the data. Again, it's sort of the comment that I made early on. People need to make enough money that they can enjoy their lives. So they want to be compensated well for the work that they do. Now, after that, work-life balance, the flexibility, that starts to then come into play. And what was their third? It was flexibility.
Career growth.
And growth is normally in there as well.
Yeah.
So they do want professional, those are normally right at the beginning. And then we get into things like job security, stability, like those types of things. Those matter less. So some of the companies that we have in Cleveland, some of the big manufacturers, companies that have been around for a long time, they have things in place and they'll say, well, we have, job security. If you start working here, you'll never lose your job. Those things don't matter as much as they used to because a lot of the younger generations will hop around a little bit more just to get exposure. Yes, to get exposure. It's actually way less than that now.
Really?
Yeah, it used to be 2.1 years. Like when I started, I'm a millennial, and when I started my career, that's what it was. It dropped to like 1.8. I think it's about 1.1 now.
Wow.
Is the average.
So pretty much every year.
Every year.
And I think a lot of them are doing it for raises.
Yes, and there's a lot of data around that shows that if you do job hop, you typically do get
A little bump.
Yeah. The problem then becomes people start to look at your resume and say, why are you job hopping every 6 to 8 months? I know that's a question that I ask when I look at resumes. I'm like, why are you leaving every 6 to 8 months? And people try to justify it, but it's hard because when you're hiring, you want someone that's going to stay with you.
Sure.
If you're
investing,
if you're investing in their training and you're investing in their development, you want them to stay with you. Again, you're not anticipating, the rest of their life. People don't stay in careers for 20, 30 years anymore, but you want to see 3, 6,
That's when there were pensions, right?
Right.
And we stayed in careers for a long time, for sure. Gosh, I wish pensions were still a thing. That would be awesome. What perks? We talked about perks and benefits a little bit, but what do you feel are maybe some of the shocking ones that you've realized that young professionals really love?
Yeah, so there are some, standards that are still out there, like student loan assistant, things like that, where people, they really do matter because they took a lot of debt going to school. But some of the ones, I think they're things that people, if you think about it, it makes sense, but maybe if you're a boomer or something, you're not thinking about it the way someone in Gen Z would. Mental health resources really matter. Wow. So this is a generation that is feeling super stressed all the time. Again, they were born with like a phone attached to them out of the womb sort of thing. So therapy stipends, wellness resources, having things like that on site,
on site.
On site. So we're going to have Wellness Friday and you can get a 10-minute chair massage. Love it.
Oh,
they want that.
Love that.
We're going to have smoothie day and everyone's going to get a detoxifying smoothie. Things like that really resonate.
Okay.
Time off to volunteer. So they love giving back to charities. So, in days of the past, certain large organizations, nonprofits, used to get money pulled out of your paycheck and it went to the nonprofit that your employer sort of selected. And there were just a couple large ones that sort of happened from, and there were just these deductions pulled out. These younger generations, that is like a thing of the past, right? I want to give back to the nonprofit that I believe in, that I have an affinity towards, because my grandmother suffered from cancer, therefore that's my affinity. That's what I want to get involved in. It's personal. And I want to give my skill set. So I'm in marketing. I love social media. I want to use my skill set towards that. So having volunteer time paid off is really helpful. Either doing it alone or even doing day of projects with my peers. So we're all going to get together and we're going to do we're going to wrap presents for children for Toys for Tots, or we're going to do make meals for Thanksgiving or whatever it might be. They love those types of things that are benefits and perks of working at companies. even things that are a little bit different. So, health insurance, all of those things matters. Pet insurance has become something that some companies are offering. People love their pets. They're beloved, right? So that's been something that's newer. Sabbaticals are something that has become, it used to hear about it just in academia, but now a lot of companies are offering long-term employees an opportunity to take a sabbatical.
Yeah.
That's been something new and kind of innovative and fun. So those are a couple sort of different, off the wall, but creative and becoming a little bit more popular.
Love that. And a lot of those things that you mentioned, it's not a lot of money invested to offer them.
A lot of it's just time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the ability to give back to your community too, because I think that's full circle as well, which is really great. And it's not you're giving them 8 hours, 16 hours, whatever it is to do that. And I think that's something that you're getting back from your community as well. I know we touched on this a little bit, but let's dig in a little bit further. Continuous learning. It is a priority for younger professionals. We see it here a lot as well. Our demographic is typically anywhere from 23 to, probably mid-30s. And we always see them asking for more and more training, more and more development. If for a small, medium-sized business owner sitting here, and I know that Engage Cleveland would be a great resource, but how do they do this without breaking the bank? Maybe they don't have a lot of budget for, continuous learning. How would they do that? How would they approach that without maybe breaking the bank?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot out there. So first of all, Engage Cleveland is a nonprofit. So to become a member of Engage is a very minimal investment. So that's one way. And then a lot of the programs we offer are free of charge once you're a member. The libraries are another really great resource. So using the libraries is a great way to get some free programming. They're actually doing really phenomenal things, which is great. LinkedIn has a lot of programs, a lot of certificates that you can get that are free of charge. That's another really great free resource as well. The thing about LinkedIn and some of the library programs, some are online, some are in person. That person-to-person connection, I think, really matters and has more accountability than some of the things that are virtual, right? So some of the LinkedIn certificates that can be done virtually, it's like, well, where are they really doing it? Where are they putting in the hours? Whereas if you're sending someone to one of our programs, you're sending someone to an in-person, whether it's a library program or an association program or a chamber program, they're coming, they're talking to somebody face-to-face, they're networking, they're getting a little bit more out of it.
Right.
I think since the pandemic, we're spending too much time behind our screens and we're missing that human element.
Yeah.
And I think we need to get a little bit more of that back.
Yeah.
So I think it can be done relatively inexpensively, but that human element needs to come back into our lives a little bit more.
Yeah. To a business owner that might be listening, what is the ROI of a program like that?
I think it can really pay dividends. So we have a lot of success stories that we've heard where, someone might pay $35 for a lunch and learn, and then, they're gonna go and take a promotion inside a company, and really it's gonna pay dividends.
Yeah.
Or they might take some of that information back and be able to help upskill other employees within the organization or share that information. It really can help. And I think it helps a lot with employee turnover, with loyalty within that organization. You're investing a small amount, which again can really kind of just, pay dividends over and over.
Snowballs over time, for sure. And that was my last question about loyalty, retention. How do programs like this really affect that in the long run? Do you see people staying longer at organizations that are offering these programs?
Absolutely. I think the more that you can invest in your employees and show that, they view it as, you're investing in them and then they have loyalty back to you. So the more that you're investing in them, whether it is through professional development programming, scholarship, reimbursement, all of those things, it really helps. Like something new that Engage is doing, Case Western Reserve University is a partner of ours. Starting in 2026, if your company is a member of Engage Cleveland, you will get a $10,000 scholarship to go to Case to work on your master's degree.
Wow, that's awesome.
And so it's like, it's like a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
It's $10,000 free dollars to go and start working on your master's degree. And I think that, again, just shows that companies are invested, right? They're showing like, hey, we care about this next generation. We care about the talent. So we're making this investment in Engage Cleveland, and then you can make the investment in yourself. And some of this, which we haven't really touched on, is that you also have to take it on and make that decision, right? Like your company can push you so far, but at the end of the day, you have to show up, you have to listen, and part of it is a personal decision as well. And I think that matters as well. Like you have to have the right mindset, and you have to be willing to put in the work. You know, if you're going to the professional development session, but you're sitting there and you're scrolling on your phone, it's a moot point. You're not getting anything out of it. So, you know, they could, you know, it's like the saying, like, you can lead the horse to water, but can't make it drink, right? Like you have to have that mindset as well. And so to me, it's a both and, not an either or, right?
Right. Absolutely. So I think small, medium-sized business owners need to understand like who's raising their hand for things like that and has the mentality that they really want to be that in that next step.
Absolutely. You have to look for the up and comers, the ones that are really passionate, the ones that are raising their hand, waving the flag. They want to be involved.
Absolutely. Mentorship. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
How does that affect, or what does it really look like in organizations that you've seen? Is it effective in retaining employees or getting them maybe to that next step in their development?
Yeah, so I think mentorship, it can be very successful. Whenever we host events and programs, a lot of the speakers will touch on how mentors have really shaped their life in positive ways. And then we'll see the attendees kind of like immediately flurry, like, how do I get a mentor? You know, how does this work? And so a lot of companies have formal internal mentorship programs. And then for the ones that don't, Engage Cleveland hosts some mentorship programs. I know some of the associations, again, have mentorship programs, like the Cleveland Society of HR Managers. They have a mentorship program. So if you're in HR, you know, something like that is a possibility. But mentorship really provides, you know, guidance. It provides networking, role modeling. There is so much that it can do to really open your eyes, open your ears, open doors. And again, it helps those people want to stay longer. You know, so when they're making those connections, and if it's the right connection, terrific. Sometimes it's the wrong connection. And that's okay, because then you can realize that, and then you just get a new mentor. You get somebody different. And, you know, I always tell people, I think sometimes people think mentoring is like you're getting, you know, your future spouse or something, and it's going to be like this perfect pairing. And, you know, it's not, it doesn't have to be. So you extract all the good, and then you leave the bad, and then you find somebody else that's maybe a better fit. And so we have some people that have gone through our mentorship program 2 or 3 times just to keep getting different nuggets of information that's really helpful. Or they've gone through their company's internal program more than once to get a different pairing. But it creates that same sense of loyalty. You're investing in me. I now have somebody within the organization that's higher up that I can go to, I can ask questions to. It's all positive. It all helps. And similar to one of the questions you raised earlier, it's low cost. You know, it's people investing their time. So it's really, again, to me, it's a no-brainer. And if you can't do it internally, if your company is too small, sometimes younger professionals get intimidated doing it internally. Sometimes it's like, oh gosh, I don't want to be, placed with our chief financial officer. I'm just this little, accounts receivable specialist. Like, that's intimidating. You know, even letting somebody do it externally, they can still learn and grow and then bring that back inside into the company. And it might cost, a couple $100s, but again, to me, it's money well spent. So, there are options as well.
Love that. So let's do a lightning round if you're game.
Okay.
Love it. So at GMS, we believe that people power businesses. Absolutely. So let's end with a quick lightning round. Short answers only.
Okay.
Ready? One word to describe the future of work.
Oh gosh. Future of work. Dynamic.
Love it. Remote, hybrid, or in office. What wins long term?
Hybrid.
Okay. What's one perk that will dominate in the next generation, the next decade?
I think it's the question you just asked. I think hybrid or remote work.
Okay, that's the one thing. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ashley. for sharing your insights. This was wonderful. For our listeners, if you would want a little bit more about resources or building a workplace that attracts and retains top talent, where can they find you, Ashley?
EngageCleveland.org.
Okay, wonderful. And reach out to us as well at www.groupmgmt.com. Until next time, guys, keep growing, keep your people and your culture at the center of your success. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning into the People's Podcast. We hope you found today's discussion helpful. Stay tuned for more insights in our next episode. For more expert guidance and resources on small business management, PEOs, and more, give our podcast a follow. Find us on social media or visit us at groupmanagement.com. That's groupmgmt.com. We're dedicated to helping small businesses everywhere make their operations simpler, safer, and stronger.